Hello everyone. Today we will review the movie American Psycho. This movie just turned 21 years old, because we are into 2021 now. I know I probably said that in a few videos by now, but we made it past the year 2020, and hopefully this year is better. I'm just going to keep saying that because we're only a few days into the new year, and it seems like things might actually turn around for the better this year, seeing as there are vaccines being made now and distributed to hopefully people all across the world. And by the summer of this year, I know that might be a bit of a stretch, we actually have some normalcy back, which kind of leads us into this topic of completely abnormal things, like the character in this movie who goes completely insane and believes that he is killing people when in reality he hasn't actually done any of the crimes he thinks he's committed. It is all just in his head as to what he would like to do to these people, but never actually goes through with it, I guess. Or he's living some sort of alternate reality that he thinks is happening, and none of it actually happened at all. So our movie follows this character, Patrick Bateman, who is a businessman, and I'm not really sure what year this was supposed to take place. It might have said at the beginning of the film, but I can't remember exactly what decade this was supposed to be taking place in. It kind of looks like the 80s or 90s, maybe. I mean, I guess that makes sense, seeing as this movie came out in 2000, so there would kind of be a logical time period for this to take place in anyway. Yes, Patrick Bateman, he lives alone. He has I don't know whether, I guess he calls her his wife in a way, I guess, even though they haven't been officially married yet. His so-called wife, I believe, is the exact words he used. Anyway, he ends up killing his coworker, Paul Allen. That was his first victim anyway. Actually, no, I think it might have been the homeless guy in the alleyway was his first victim. And there's a scene in the bar where the bartender doesn't accept coupons anymore, so he actually has to pay with real money, and then you can see him having like an interaction in the mirror with himself as to what he would want to do to this woman if he had the chance. So clearly he's got some psychological issues, and he doesn't know how to control them. Now, I'm not really sure. This is definitely a psychological thriller. And some parts, I'm not really sure how much of it actually happened and how much of it actually didn't. Obviously, the killing part of it wasn't real, but there are certain scenes where he has these prostitutes over and does a bunch of stuff with them, and I'm not sure whether any of that actually happened or not, because he ends up killing, I think, pretty much everybody who he meets on his own, because he eventually moves into the apartment of Paul Allen, who he killed, and he did take a whole bunch of clothing of his and basically made it look like this Paul Allen character had got on vacation. Eventually he breaks down to the point where he can't handle it anymore. He calls up his lawyer and tells him about all the killings. And then at the end of the movie, he meets up with his lawyer, and his lawyer keeps calling him Davis. And he says, there's no way that you could have actually committed these murders, because I had dinner twice with Paul Allen in London, which is where I guess they thought he had gone. So he keeps trying to plead with him, like, I am Patrick Bateman, don't you recognize me? You're my lawyer. And eventually the guy just leaves. And Yeah, it was a very strange transition at the end of the movie. Obviously, I hadn't seen this in so long, so I forgot. Like the last time I saw this movie, I was a kid, so it's been quite some time because I would have only been 7 when this movie came out. So I can't remember exactly when I've seen this. I just know I've seen it in the past before, and it was quite some time ago because this movie is 21 years old. So yeah, it's been quite some time since I've actually seen this movie. So yeah, I guess it was like watching it for the first time again because I probably haven't seen it since I was a child. But yeah, I can see this movie would have been way more confusing to me as a kid compared to now. But I guess I kind of understand, obviously, the drug abuse in this movie probably led to a lot of his psychological damage, I would say. And he was having an affair on his wife, and he thought that she was having an affair with somebody on him. So obviously, he was a very untrustworthy person, and he didn't trust a lot of people, and he did a lot of crazy stuff with a lot of women. And he was really into music. That was his one big thing. And every time he wanted to get out of something, he would always just say that he had to return some videotapes, and then he would go and do whatever else he was actually going to do. I might have to watch this movie again just to pick up on every little key point because there's so much to cover in this movie. So I might go back and watch this a little later on down the road and do a re-review of it just because there's so much. It's just such a psychological thing to really, you have to like sit there and think about so much and get into the mind of this Patrick Bateman character that this guy has created, which was odd because a lot of the scenes you could tell like what he was saying wasn't actually what he was saying because the person would respond to him with what they were actually talking about, but meanwhile he had said something totally different in his own mind. So that was kind of cool to watch. The conversations between him and certain people because you were like, whoa, 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 like he's talking about something totally different, and they're talking about what he's actually trying to say, or what he actually is saying, but what you're hearing coming out of his mouth is not what they're actually discussing. So it was kind of cool. It was like alternate realities almost in a way. You were living in his fantasy world the entire time while he was actually living in the real world talking about business, but in the viewer's eyes, he was talking about the killings that he was committing. And of course, Willem Dafoe, who plays the detective in this movie, I'm not even sure if this detective existed or whether that was just another part of his fantasy world, because he never shows up at the end to like arrest him for anything, because obviously his lawyer now knows that this Patrick Bateman character he's created, and obviously Davis, his real name is Nuts, and his secretary does find this whole notebook of all of the drawings of the murders that he, I guess, wanted to commit, but never actually committed. So there's so many details in this movie to actually go in and cover, and yeah, I could probably pick up on so much more if I watched it a second time. So I probably will actually come back and do a re-review of this film, just because it seems like there's a lot to touch on, and I'm probably missing quite a bit. But anyhow, Christian Bale did a phenomenal job of being able to go from normal human being to the serial killer deranged person that he had fabricated, and the killings were insane in this movie. Murders he murders Paul Allen with an axe. He kills somebody by dropping a chainsaw down a whole like flight of stairs on them. He stabs the homeless guy, and And then when the two prostitutes, or no, I guess one of them was his friend, but the other one was a prostitute. That was the one that he killed with the chainsaw, but she finds all the other dead bodies in the apartment that he was in. So I'm not really sure whether he actually ended up killing some people and he was in a totally different apartment than he thought he was in. It's kind of confusing because the detective did say that Paul Allen's luggage was gone and that he was in London, but it turns out at the end that Paul Allen actually was in London, so it's kind of misleading. But yeah, it's just a whole like brain warp type thing. But yeah, I will say Christian Bale did a phenomenal job of in this movie, and he does like go into great detail about music, and when he's narrating certain parts of his life, like his whole like workout routine, and I don't know, there was a whole like his beauty routine and stuff like that, like how he keeps himself in like tip top shape, and how he keeps his how he keeps up his appearance, I guess, would be part of the body and wellness and all that routine. Yeah. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything that I can at least think of on the first watch through of this. I will probably go back and do this again, just because I would like to actually review this film more than once to kind of really get all the details down, because it just seems like there's a lot to cover in this film, because it is a longer film. It's almost 2 hours. So yes, but phenomenal job on the acting. 10 out of 10 on this film. I guess this was kind of like me watching it again for the first time, so if there's anything I missed, I'm sorry. I will go back and re-review this film and put it up again, maybe even later this year, just because this is one of those ones where it's like, oh, it's a lot to take in. So I hope I covered everything that I could, at least on the first watch through. So please like, share and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this film. And please, if there's anything I missed, we can talk about it in the comments. Because sometimes comments will bring back certain things, and I'll be like, oh yes, that did happen. And but I know there's probably a few things that just went right over my head in this movie, and I didn't even realize. And he does give some sort of speech at the end. But I don't want to give that away, because that would kind of ruin the whole movie, I guess, because it kind of wraps it up into a nice little bow at the end, that he's like just completely broken down as a human being, and he doesn't even really know what is reality and what's not anymore. But yeah, 10 out of 10 on this film, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.